This podcast is sponsored by Blum. Blum is the leading manufacturer of furniture fittings for high-quality living spaces, dedicated to delivering enhanced user convenience for a better quality of living. Let's talk together about new ideas, because it's not about our ideas, it is about bringing yours to life. Blum, we stay in motion to move ideas forward.
Maya Dimova-Handley, a self-starter, self-taught, highly skilled interiors artisan, in demand all around the world, particularly in the high-end luxury sector. Who is the woman behind the Spicy Lemon brand? What does it take to be born into a formerly communist country, to have no formal interiors training, but to be filled full of passion, and to then take that and break into the creative cutthroat interiors industry? It's time to challenge design perspectives with the lovely Maya Dimova-Handley. Welcome, Maya.
Hi, well, thank you for having me today.
Pleasure. Look, we've set the scene with some lemons.
Brilliant.
Some lemonade.
Brilliant. We're getting on par on brand.
Yeah. Spicy Lemon design company. Now that's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it?
It is, but I wanted to be something that's memorable, and I was really struggling to find the right name. And my son actually came up with the idea, and he said, what about Spicy Lemon? And I thought, well, how am I going to connect this to design, to interiors? And I realized I don't have to. There doesn't have to be a direct connection with the name. As long as the name is memorable, there are companies that go completely on par with what the name says it. It clearly stipulates what the business is about. But often we do come across brands. I really love Crazy Bear. I love the concept behind it. And it doesn't relate to anything to what the brand is. It's ultimately a really luxurious, beautiful restaurant with amazing interiors. So Spicy Lemon London is actually another business that's come through hard work. And the idea behind it is really to be something that's different, something that's special and a bit more personal. So there's no direct connection to my interiors world, but there is it's a conversation opener in a way, because people do ask, how did you come up with the idea? And, it really stems from that. So I'm really pleased with the name. Thank you for bringing up that question.
Pleasure. And it's a great thing about design. There are no rules.
Exactly.
Potentially. It's all subjective and there's no boxes.
Brilliant. Yes, that's how I see design as well. I see it as an open area where you can express yourself regardless of your background, your education, your aspirations. You can really be creative and put your stamp on the space that you're working with. And this can relate in lots of different areas, not just in designing a room, but also designing a product, going into the bespoke. And that's why bespoke and high-end really is my passion, because you can express yourself differently. You can really test the materials that you work with. So I'm really excited for, what the future holds in product design in terms of my business.
Good stuff. Well, Maya, welcome to the Designerati podcast studio. What we tend to do is we start with an icebreaker. Now, an icebreaker is either a product or some information that you can share with the audience that people wouldn't typically associate with you.
Well, I think the biggest icebreaker for me is that I'm just a mum. I'm a woman that's trying to really work hard to set up her own business. I was actually asked this question quite often before, and I think the reality for me is, if you can turn around your business and you can make it work everywhere, especially today in this pandemic where you can open a business in any setting. And that icebreaker for me is really the flexibility, and the flexibility that women bring to the business. Because years ago, at least 2-3 decades ago, working from home and conducting a particular business was not always really perceived as a serious endeavor. You would be competing against brands that have made a considerable investment into the high street. So my idea, my business is nothing different really to what lots of women designers are doing out there, but it just brings it that much more into the reality, into today, because it offers, customers and designers alike, even new aspiring designers, to think, actually, it's not that difficult to start. I can start with nothing. I can start with the simplest of things. And I started on eBay. I started selling products that were from particular brands, and those products offered me that engagement, that first communication with the client. So your steps can be retraced back to the simplest of things, and those opportunities are available in front of us always. At least that's how I feel.
And what a motivating and inspiring mentor you are to many people looking to start in the world of interiors. The message is you can start with nothing, but possibly
you can. I bought my first product for £20 and I sold it for over £100. I was over the moon. I thought, wow, this is brilliant. And that was in the bathrooms category. I then went on to sell lots of different products in the bathrooms category, and then moved on to kitchens, and eventually realized that people valued my advice, my ideas. And I really cherish that collaborative process. And the collaboration brings you opportunities. If you feel that, to any designers out there that are starting out now, if they feel that it's hard to get your clients, to get your project, because ultimately you're judged based on your last project. It doesn't matter what you've done and what you're going to do next. Today you're going to be judged. Your next project comes from what you're doing now. But ultimately it's about relationships as well. So if you start off small, you always have to value each client equally. And that's how I've dealt with, all my clients. And ultimately, even the smallest of projects have led me on to bigger jobs. And that does, because I have never kind of looked to fit into a particular mold. I never felt that, okay, I have to have a particular showroom presence or a high street presence. I've always been really transparent with how I work, how I conduct my business, and people appreciate that. And then that can once you build that trust, that can lead on to bigger and greater things.
So relationships you would cite as central and integral to the success of your brand nowadays?
Certainly, I would say that the relationship development is the key element into any, even potential new business. I worked on a project, for example, in Enfield years ago, and that was on a small project for a lovely young couple that just moved into their home and they wanted a new kitchen design. Our collaboration was brilliant. Then later on, a few years later, they've asked me to do their bathroom. And recently, I've just redesigned their home. The kitchen that you've seen last on our social feed was actually based from that project. So it just shows that you can, you don't necessarily have to chase your clients. Sometimes they come to you in the simplest of ways by just asking a question, asking for a bit of advice. And that relationship builder, that opportunity is there for you to grasp, but not to pressure it. Rather than, you have to be in a position to nurture those relationships. So I think it's really important to start off small, dream big, and then focus on delivering. Once you deliver your service that you've promised, particularly your aftercare service, because there's always, going to be challenges. Every project has a particular challenge. But I feel that if you nurture that relationship, if you start off small and people can see your passion, then they will give you that opportunity. The opportunity is there. You just have to really make yourself open to it.
Now, this is an interesting conversation because, so you had your passion, you were clearly creative from an early age, and you're clearly a woman with integrity and honesty at the forefront of her personality. But you have no formal interiors training, is that?
No, I don't have any training. Not until 2004, when I started dabbling into design, but more on the sort of computer software design systems, rather than going to a course or doing it. In fact, when I first came to England, I went to do A-levels in English. I just was more fascinated to improve my English. I felt that if I can express myself correctly, I will be at a better standpoint rather than focus on one particular course that might change in the future. And you know what it's like in design. The software and the training changes every single year. There's something new. There's something more improved. So ultimately, I feel that if you nurture all your skills, you will come to a realization that all of that is more than enough. And you just need to be transparent. And if whether you're starting, whether you're at the peak of your career, I think the same principle applies, because ultimately you either want to do a good job or not. I mean, any industry is not there for the faint-hearted, and it's certainly not for people that want to be there for a particular time. You can't just focus on something for 2-3 years and expect amazing results. I mean, some people are lucky. They end up into lots of different projects, but that can only carry you so far. But bringing everything to the table, bringing different perspectives, even sometimes just going on site and understanding people from different cultures, the way they work, the way they perceive things. And some cultures do have a particular approach to things as well. So I would know, for example, in my country, I feel that people are more pushed on to just get on with things, whereas they've never had that opportunity maybe to express their feelings so much. Whereas I can see my son from a very early on age at school, he's challenged to express his emotions. So there's a high degree of emotion involved into the job, but it's still portrayed in an understated English way. Whereas we're very emotional in a different way. We're expressive, we speak louder. I mean, when we first got married and I took my husband to Macedonia, he thought we were arguing the whole time. But and it was all gibberish to him. But now he actually understands. He understands the intricacies, that how certain people, certain cultures can express themselves differently. But that doesn't devaluate the passion into something. It's just a different perspective of looking at things, and bringing those different elements is actually a bonus.
So you're clearly an emotionally intelligent woman, highly intuitive, and in 2004 is when you started your formal training into interiors. Can you tell me a little bit more about your design work that unfolded?
So I started off with just small projects. To be honest, the first day when I started work, I couldn't design, had no knowledge of the software, no knowledge of the quoting system. And at that point...
Were you working for somebody?
I was working for Magnet. My first position was in Magnets. And it was a brilliant high street name. Lots of different branches across the country. Really a perfect location for me to start. It was I was based in the showroom in Enfield. It was a really positive experience because it opened my doors to so many different things. And also it intrigued me to look into freelancing in the future, because they had freelancers, their fitters were freelanced, they were commissioned for particular projects. They had lots of other, designers or people on board that they were on freelance basis. So it was a mixture between retail and trade. I was on trade, but I had experience, luckily, to deal with some retail clients as well. We were there for the Christmas sales, for promotions. The team was small, so we were really pushed to, excel ourselves.
What were some of the most valuable skills that you believe you learnt from Magnet?
I think just not worrying about tomorrow. Stop focusing about what's going to happen next. Just really focus on the project now. Do the best you can at this project. Deliver what you can. If you can't, help, ask for help others. But then do really be brave as well. Challenge yourself. So go out. I mean, I had to do surveys. I didn't do any surveys before that. Everything I sold was online. So it was a new environment. Everything was interesting. I went to work on a few projects for the council. I did assisted living. Then I worked with designers through trade.
So you're getting some great hands-on experience.
Really amazing experience.
And developing your
Grateful.
confidence.
Yes. And I became so much more hungrier. I wanted to push myself. at this point, my son was young. We were looking at, as any parent, we were struggling with childcare. So the next progression was just a natural one to subcontract through other companies.
Kitchen companies.
Kitchens and bathrooms. At that point, I branched out to kitchens and bathrooms. It was an interesting period because I learned quite a lot more in terms of the technical side of, I really wanted to immerse myself in what I'm selling. And even then, I looked at things that are sustainable, and I wanted to look at something that's good quality. I mean, coming from a background where you install a kitchen once in a lifetime, maybe twice, to looking at mass consumption and mass production, it was something that I had to really learn. I had to get used to that. But it offered me an opportunity to look at different areas. And especially if you're in a showroom kind of setting, you do get exposed to appliance manufacturers, to worktop manufacturers. You go through training. It's really valuable time. I think everybody should look into that.
And I wonder, as a self-trained woman in interiors, have you come up against any peers that are classically trained and experience any resentment, any differences?
I think there is a lot of stigma about that question. I think the reality is, if you want to look at life that way, you will find that everywhere. I could say I've seen people, or I've been in situations where I've been from abroad and my whole team has been British, and I could have looked at it, I feel like the odd one out. But I didn't. I just thought, wow, this is a great experience. I can learn something. I can improve my English. I've then been in a team that's completely diverse and multicultural. I didn't necessarily feel, this is going to be amazing. These are my own people and I can find my feet here, understand what they're talking about. I mean, yes, there's a natural connection when you know somebody, or somebody comes from your own country, or you've had the same type of experiences. Sometimes you can relate to things. Like you can say, do you remember that show in the 80s? And I'll be like, no, I never watched it. But that doesn't mean that there's no other conversation openness for us. I actually feel that I've always been lucky. Even if I felt that there's an atmosphere, and sometimes there can be on site, if you're managing different teams or other people are managing different teams, there can be, situations where there's pressure. You have to deliver. And I felt that genuinely in my experience, I've brushed off things really quickly. I just put it behind. Even things like, my first manager, I remember I asked him for a day off to go and watch a Christmas play, and it was on a Friday. And he said it as a joke, but nowadays that would be considered, a bit different. But he said, you're the reason why I don't employ mums. And he walked off laughing. And I just decided not to focus on that. I said, well, that's why I do every Saturday when everybody else is hungover. So, you just have to, you have to take it as a joke. Sometimes people say it and they mean it seriously, and that's when it's not necessary. I don't think 2 decades on I've experienced that. It would be wrong for me to say, but I've never been in that environment where I can feel somebody's underestimated me just because they've had a particular training. I think you either bear that cross yourself or you allow other people to categorize you.
Now, if someone comes to Spicy Lemon, what can they expect from your brand?
Well, they can expect good service, they can expect to be looked after, and they can expect a personal journey, because it's all about the personal experience. I think when you're independent, you have this freedom to really, when your presence is locked in a high street showroom, you have to work under a particular brand. If I was a kitchen manufacturer, I would have 1 or 2 selection of brands. The difference is with interior design studios, you go in and you have open hands. They will bring the best product to you because customer satisfaction is the key. We are loyal to the relationships that we forge, but those relationships come from through hard work, through respecting brands that are reputable, but also through knowing that we want to offer our clients that flexibility. So if there is a need for a customization, if something needs to be bespoke, then we want our clients to receive that product, because that's what's the best layout for that room, and that's what's the most valuable solution for that design. We don't want to be, starting off for a kitchen manufacturer and then working for other kitchen manufacturers and bathroom producers. Has actually made me realize that some brands have restrictions on them, and working for an interior design studio actually gives you that freedom to look at the whole project, because nobody's here to say, look, you have to focus on your kitchen. Your target is your kitchen. Your big sale ticket is your kitchen. You have to, forget about the tiles or forget about the different elements. Well, in design, it doesn't work like that. You either look at the room as a whole, or you don't look at any elements at all, because you have to really create this symbiotic relationship between every element and the client, because ultimately they will use that. They will use each product. They will see it every day. If it's not practical, then, and it has to be truthful to what they desire. I think ultimately, if the budget is set, yes, you can go over slightly that budget and you can go for certain products that are amazing and wonderful, but ultimately, how would that client feel 2-3 years down the line by using their product? Because they have to feel that they've received good value and that it's been truthful to what they desired.
So as well as your interior design company, you're a purveyor of products. Tell me about that. How did you come about?
So we like to source products worldwide. In terms of the furniture, ideally the transition has been going towards British manufacturing. There has been significant delays, world shortages with materials, with appliances. So it's a natural progression for us to really focus on British manufacturing. And I think it's a really exciting time. There's so many different collaborations coming out. Going forward for us, we really want to focus our sourcing into supporting small brands, small businesses, individual artists, people that create their own accessories. We are currently actually testing a few products for our kitchen range. Hopefully we can bring our own bespoke line.
Wait a second, how do you even launch a product?
So this is all new to me. It's new waters. It's a very exciting time, but a very sort of worrying time in a way, because we've tested some products. We've gone to different manufacturers. I was lucky to work on a production for a few accessories, vases, back in 2015. And that gave me the encouragement to go into different waters. This year we're looking at producing our own range for flooring, kitchens and bathrooms. The kitchen category in particular, well, it would work in a way that we would offer our clients a fully bespoke product made in the UK. They can paint it to any finish, any color that they prefer. We're looking to collaborate with brands that have, good product line, existing good product line, but we are looking to create a few colors that are going to be bespoke to our range as well. Style-wise, it's just, the focus will be on something modern and understated. The reason for that is that we can use that particular range into the wardrobe category as well. So that particular slab door, for example, can then be used for different materials, desks, office design. Personally, I haven't got a great experience on the commercial side. So that's a line that we really want to line of business that I really want to explore going forward. But it's a tricky process because I'm coming as a complete novice. There's no backup team to guide me on what are the pitfalls and the dangers. So I'm really going head on. But it's an exciting time because there's been a lot of good feedback back. And again, it's that asking the question, just putting yourself out there, because I never asked it before. It doesn't mean that it wasn't possible. It made me realize how many different brands operate in that way, where they state that they've produced the products, but actually they've got this collaborative mix of manufacturers and artisans that work behind producing that for them. And that has encouraged me to consider different kind of to explore that path of product design, to bring something that's going to be more on par with the branding that's being refreshed as well this year. So
But
really
also,
exciting.
it's full circle for you again with this relationships, isn't it?
Yes.
This is relationships again with artisans, collaborations.
Yes, it is. It is. I think it's really important to focus on bringing something that's personal. And the only way to achieve that is by going and working with people that you've worked. And sometimes one collaboration can lead on to another. And quite spontaneously, you know, I've looked at certain products in the kitchen category, and I'm thinking, oh, that could really work in an office. You know, that finish is beautiful, and that particular veneer would be great. So why can't I use that there? So it's just a spontaneous way of really spreading your wings in a way and just trying something new. And it's scary when you start to say, oh, I've got a product coming up. And everybody wants to see it. Everyone wants to, and then the pressure does build, because then you think, oh, this sample is not good enough, or that's not how I envisage this. So it's a difficult journey, but it's a rewarding one, and I'm just really throwing myself into it this year.
Do you have a mentor?
I don't. I had mentorship in 2015. Once I finished the program with Enfield Enterprise for Women in Business, I was actually really lucky to go on to a collaborative project with JP Morgan and Enfield Enterprise, and I was voted as Ambassador for Women in Business. During that period, I did have some mentoring, which was amazing, completely invaluable. But
What did you learn?
I learned that no matter how small you are as a business, nothing is, you know, insignificant, that everything is achievable. I mean, we had one lecture, I remember there was an amazing woman who pitched and won $1 million for an idea where she didn't even have a product available. It was about a service, but the service was at the time so far-fetched. Nowadays, it would seem normal about healthy living, well-being, how people can connect through different apps. But, you know, go back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, certain ideas would have been impossible. I don't think there's enough role models for women in business that are daring. There are women coming up now. And, you know, you yourself, I'm really in awe of how much of diversity you have in your own line of work. And that's what we need to see. We need to see people that diversify, because that brings, that plants that seed into the next generation, because people would then think, actually, that's really interesting and I can try that. Why not?
But that's another fascinating conversation, because it brings us back to the conversation we originally had about deep diving. Society has this expectation of us that we focus singularly on kind of one line of work and we become experts, and that's the danger with that, or maybe the opportunity with that is you become kind of, you know, somebody that is the go-to resource and the expert in that field. But also, you know, it can be limiting for people that think, actually, I want to change career direction. I want to do something different.
And there's bravery in that. There's so much bravery in that, to change, to do something from scratch. And all credit to everybody that's doing it. And I think there should be more change, because, you know, we lived in an age where, I don't know, I mean, I'll use something like personal, for example. Years ago when I came to London, I looked at stores like Dorothy Perkins. Sorry, I'm not sure if I can mention particular names, but
Yeah.
providing clothes or services for people that are of particular size. And that was not possible. You would go into a store and there would not be, you know, you've got the funds to buy a product and there's no product available for you because society perceived, you know, was structured in a particular way. Fast forward 20 years now, even the biggest brands are working with, you know, more curvy models. They're introducing bigger sizes.
Real women.
What represents of what is out there on, you know, in real life. But that also has opened new revenues for them, revenues that they were missing out for decades. That it's actually criminal to say we were not offering diversity because society, you know, expected from us that we would have those limitations. And this goes back to the career question, to diversifying. I actually would love to see somebody that has tried, means they're searching. You know, they're searching, they're looking at something, and they've diversified in their role. Staying in the same position for 20 years is not exciting for me. It's brilliant. It's brilliant when somebody has that profession and that call and they know exactly what they're doing. You know, some people are like that. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to be in business and that I wanted to travel and I wanted to learn English. And I think I fulfilled on those things. But there are other people that don't necessarily have that, you know, that idea, or they feel like they would be limiting themselves if they dedicate to one category. They dedicate their effort into one category. And I think going forward, what we need to see is people actually being challenging themselves, being more brave, going into different things. And companies, even if we're looking at, you know, banking or accounting, for example, roles where you would expect a clear line of working history, we need to see people diversifying. We need to see and showing that to the world.
In your office, behind closed doors, what do your team say about you?
So at home, I actually work on my own. Every team that I work with is subcontracted, usually local to the projects that we work. So if I'm working in North London, I would be looking to subcontract people that are based there. I work with a lot of women as well, a great deal of female entrepreneurs who are completely independent and in exactly the same position as me. And I feel that they challenge me and they, in a positive way, they push me to, you know, to push myself going forward.
What do they say about you?
They say that I always speak my mind and that I'm really passionate about what I feel, even to my own detriment. You know, I've been in those positions where I've said things where nobody has said them. And I felt that it had to be said because I would rather be surrounding myself with people that can honestly say, oh, I've come here today and I've actually spoken to you directly and truthfully, and I can challenge you for who you are, rather than just fit in a norm or behave in a way that they think I would expect them to behave. I think that's a really big trap there to set yourself in, because you will never be able to push yourself. And, you know, no matter what challenges you face, if you are challenged, you will learn. If you're not challenged, you will not learn, because you will end up in a world of me, myself, and I. And
beautiful. What a fascinating conversation, and it's a natural end now. And I want to comment that Amazon cite themselves as number one for customer service, but my assumption with you and your brand is that your customer service is exceptional, and that is steered and led very toughly by you.
Thank you so much.
You're an inspiration. Thank you for your time today, Maya. Fascinating.
This podcast is sponsored by Blum. Blum is the leading manufacturer of furniture fittings for high-quality living spaces, dedicated to delivering enhanced user convenience for a better quality of living. Let's talk together about new ideas, because it's not about our ideas, it is about bringing yours to life. Blum, we stay in motion to move ideas forward.